has done extensive work around the work of the political killings task team. So she's my guest at the top of 7. Then Ian Cameron, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police. And the reason we're speaking to him is that one of the key calls that are coming through is that Parliament should pick up the mantle and actually investigate this, and even calls being made for a full-on parliamentary inquiry. So Ian Cameron, my guest, at about 20 past 7. Then at about 7:45 this morning, I'll speak to Paul O'Sullivan, who is a forensic consultant, criminologist, and a certified fraud examiner. He's been in the thick of things in terms of the recent investigations involving police officials as high up as at least 2 former National Police Commissioners. Sometimes his interventions not so welcome, but he's been someone who's been at the heart of these investigations, and quite a number of times the theories that he advances actually turn out to be the reality. So Paul O'Sullivan will speak to me at about 7:45 this morning. Then at about 7:50, we'll speak to Lesiba Tobagale to get the perspective of organized labor within the police. These are the people, the men and women who are now sitting and watching their leaders in the heat of all of this scandal and controversy, and perhaps wondering, where do we get our cue from? How do we remain disciplined within the SAPS? So Lesiba Tobagale of the South African Police Union will speak to me at about 7:50. And it feels hard to even move on and talk about other news that we will cover, but we have to. So in other news then, I'll tell you about Operation Dudullah reigniting controversy by intensifying their protests outside healthcare facilities in Johannesburg, and also aiming to block undocumented foreign nationals from accessing state medical services. This is despite the condemnation of bodies such as the South African Human Rights Commission. So the group leader, Zandile Dabula, will speak to me at about 8:20 this morning. And lastly, let me mention this. In the wake of the deadly flooding in parts of the Eastern Cape, you are hearing a lot of talk about climate resilient infrastructure and building climate resilient infrastructure and urban planning. But what does that entail exactly in our context? Well, lessons drawn from the recent flooding, as well as the flooding that occurred in 2022 in KwaZulu-Natal, will be the subject of much discussion when a wide array of built environment officials and experts convene in East London this week. So I'll be in conversation with the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Sihle Zikalala. That conversation coming up at about 8:45, just before we wrap up the show. Morning Brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff, and Musa at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne has your traffic updates. Zaikan with all your sports updates. Melissa Puta has your morning brief in brief, and that's coming up shortly. Dowling Lechela has your business, economics, and market news covered, as well as Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 7:20 this morning. You can be a part of this conversation. Please give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send those to 061 410 4107. We've got lots of ground to cover, so let's get going.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, let's get started with this morning's briefing session with Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. Among some of what Melissa will be telling you about is the work that will be happening before Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition, and the appearance by the minister that is expected to take place a bit later on. And also, among some of the other stories Melissa will be telling us about will be, President Ramaphosa and what I touched upon a short while ago, and the statement that the president issued in the wake of the allegations and counter-allegations that were coming through from Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and then at some point we got a response from Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, and the president then calling order. In fact, let's start there, Melissa. Tell me what the president has had to say. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. President Cyril Ramaphosa has acknowledged the serious allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, accusing him of interfering in investigations and associating with questionable individuals. Mchunu has denied the claims. Ramaphosa emphasized the national security implications and called for discipline to preserve public trust and police unity. He will announce further action after returning from the BRICS summit in Brazil. We've also had quite a lot of, reactions on social media as well, with people quite intrigued and quite eager to see how this plays out, during the course of this week.
Yeah, absolutely. A great deal of intrigue, but also equally concern for the state of policing as well as national security. The Minister of Trade and Industry will also be appearing in Parliament, also having to account for board appointments. Tell me about that.
Yes, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Park Stawu, is scheduled to appear before Parliament's Portfolio Committee on July 22nd to explain the appointment of 3 ANC affiliates, Ayanda Jojo, Dr. Nomusa Dube-Ncube, and Dr. Sydney Mafumadi, to the board of the Industrial Development Corporation. The EFF raised concerns, calling the appointments politically motivated and lacking in transparency. The committee, led by Mzwandile Masina, seeks clarity on the selection process, appointees' qualifications, and alignment with the IBC's developmental mandate. Tau has defended the appointment, stating political affiliation does not negate capability.
Yeah. And lastly, Melissa, talk to us about the surge in gun violence in areas in the Western Cape, particularly in Mitchell's Plain. It's been a devastating few days, hasn't it?
Yes, so the residents in Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town have been left fearful and traumatized following a surge in gun violence in the recent weeks. 2 men were killed on Friday night following a recent shooting that claimed 5 lives and injured several others. The violence is believed to be gang-related. In response, the local community policing forum met with residents to address the crisis. CPF chairperson Norman Yankees criticized poor police investigations and called for better intelligence, more resources, and improved detective skills to combat the rising crime in the community.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta there with the Morning Brief in brief, just helping you complete your picture with some of the stories that we believe you should be aware of.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's get you started with a weather update. 2 warnings coming through from the South African Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says damaging waves resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea are expected between Cape Agulhas and Plettenberg Bay in the morning. The second one, yellow level 2 warning. It is for damaging winds and waves resulting in small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing in locality, difficulty in navigation and dragging anchors, and those conditions are possible between Plettenberg Bay and Kaimouth. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, fine with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 19. Johannesburg, fine, 5 to 16. Mbombela, partly cloudy with drizzle at times, 11 to 21. Polokwane, fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 7 to 20. Mahikeng will be fine with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 16. Bloemfontein, fine with morning fog patches, -1 to 11. Kimberley, fine with morning fog patches, 0 to 12. Uppington will be fine with morning fog patches, 3 to 14. Cape Town will be partly cloudy, becoming fine in the evening with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 16. George will be partly cloudy, becoming fine in the evening, 7 to 16. Gqeberha will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 10 to 16. East London will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 17. Durban partly cloudy, 9 to 21. Richards Bay partly cloudy with isolated morning showers and rain, 11 to 22. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 17.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
It's coming up to 22 minutes after 6. Let's bring you this story. The Dalai Lama has turned 90 years old, an occasion marked by fervent celebrations and spiritual rituals in the Himalayan hill town of Dharamshala. But playing out in the background is the next point of contention between the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader and Chinese officials, the process to choose his successor. The Dalai Lama has confirmed that he will have a successor, a process deemed to be reincarnation in terms of Tibetan Buddhist traditions, deeply rooted in spiritual customs, not political authority. However, Beijing, which considers the Dalai Lama a separatist, has rejected his authority to determine a successor, insisting that the succession process must follow Chinese laws, religious rituals, and historical conventions, and ultimately be approved by the government. Let's give you a perspective on this. I'm joined by Professor Garth Mason, who is a scholar of Buddhism at the Department of Religious Studies and Arabic, that is at UNISA. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Let's start with this process called reincarnation in the sense of reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. It talks to having a successor. Why was the doubt whether or not the current Dalai Lama was going to have a successor or a reincarnation?
Yes, at some point there was a doubt about it, simply because of the complexity of the political issues around China and Tibet. But in 2007, back then even, he came out and said these are the signs to look for when he passes and his consciousness then moves to another being, or what we call reincarnation or rebirth in Buddhism. So it hasn't been in doubt for quite some time. 2007 he made that statement. Yes, last week was a huge event, his birthday, 90th birthday, where he confirmed that there would indeed be another Dalai Lama.
So what do we know about the process to choose a successor or that reincarnation? You're saying that he already pointed out what the signs would be. That's an integral part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. So this is where the whole debate and complexity and also fascinating to understand what the processes are that's going on at the moment. So, the Dalai Lama succession plan has been going, or succession tradition has been going since the early Middle Ages, 1891, the first Dalai Lama. The process is called the Panchen Lama process, where the consciousness of the Dalai Lama leaves the body and then takes up another body in a child. And then the early processes were, in terms of, when I'm talking about going back to the Middle Ages, the seeking out this child, and there were various processes of recognition of objects and speaking to the oracles, and there was even which direction the smoke at the cremation was blowing. They would take these signs. When the Qing dynasty, Chinese dynasty, in 1792, I think, 93, moved or took over Tibet as well, and they brought in this process called the Golden Urn. And the reasons are manifold, and which I'll take you through. The Golden Urn is really a process of drawing lots, and they felt that the process needed to be free of corruption, so names would be put in the urn and drawn, and it would be done in public. How that went on for 1719 to about 1912, when the Qing dynasty collapsed, and the 13th Dalai Lama at that stage then declared Tibet to be independent of China. That was never recognized in the world, internationally, perhaps because of the World War at the time. And this is where the issue has developed. The 14th Dalai Lama, which is obviously the current Dalai Lama, was brought in using the old techniques and not the Golden Urn. And the debate and arguments between China and Tibet has revolved around this, not using the Golden Urn. And of course, China has never recognized the current 14th Dalai Lama because he was brought in not using the Golden Urn method. Yeah.
All right. No, thank you for that. Thank you for your insights this morning. It will be a fascinating process to watch it unfold. Of course, the Dalai Lama, Prof, saying that he intends to continue to live for quite a long time. So yes. I guess that won't kick in anytime soon if his words...
Well, he said he could live up to another 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Professor Garth Mason, who is a scholar of Buddhism at the Department of Religious Studies at UNISA.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Absolutely. What an innings. I mean, this is something that I think it shows the class of the Proteas. And that's how they're doing it now with this incredible innings. Mulder, he wasn't just batting, he was composing a symphony, and that's out in Bulawayo. Exciting things as always coming out of the Proteas. And we're looking forward to, showcasing how gritty Vian Mulder's leadership after the skipper smashed an unbeaten 264 on day one of the second test against Zimbabwe. Mulder's double ton sees him become South Africa's 7th highest scorer in a single test innings. Bellingham, who supported him with a solid 82, says the skipper worked his socks off to anchor the Proteas to 265 for 4 at stumps and deserves all the praise. Okay, let's go quickly to this news, and it's AFCON. And as always, we are going behind the ladies when it comes to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2025. Record 9-time champions Nigeria kicking off their campaign in style. They brushed aside Tunisia, and that was 3-0. Another match saw Senegal sending a strong message with a commanding 4-0 win over DR Congo. And tonight we'll have, yes, our very own defending champions. That's Banyana. And we've got their coach, Desiree Ellis, as well. She says that there's quality and she believes in her squad. They have the right to be contenders despite the off-field challenges surrounding the team. Now, Banyana are competing at the ongoing tournament in Morocco as defending champions. But let me just tell you, they're putting aside their off-field drama to focus on their match tonight, 6 p.m. And you can catch it live on SABC Sport. Also, there's been action galore when it comes to tennis. Taylor Fritz, he booked his place in the Wimbledon quarterfinals with a double quick time after Australia's Jordan Thompson retired injured with a score of 6-1 and 3-love. We've also had Karen Khachanov overcome his opponent, that's Kamil Maszak of Poland, 6-4, 6-2, 6-3. And we also have the women's draw, the Russian veteran Anastasia Pavlyuchenko overcoming Britain's Sonia Cattell to reach the quarterfinals in straight sets, 7-6, 6-4. And we'll bring you more of these and other sporting stories. Serving up to you, top of the hour, I am Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa in the headlines.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has made public WhatsApp conversations from seized cell phones that allegedly show a link between a member of a crime syndicate and associate of the police minister Senzo Mchunu. 2 people have been shot dead in a gang-related incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. At least 9 people have been shot dead in various areas across the township over the past few days. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded former Deputy President David Mabuza with a state funeral Category 2, which will be held on Saturday in Mpumalanga. Mabuza passed away last Thursday at the age of 64. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning. It's a very busy back to work Monday in Pretoria using the mighty Mopani Highway. No traffic lights down the bottom end at Esky and Patladi. That queue is already 15 minutes. 15 minutes to get through at this time of morning. Wow. Back towards Bremer Street. N1 looking fairly busy. Old Joburg Road down to New Road this morning. And a bit of traffic coming in from the south. The Mike 1 Boysons through to Parktown is slow. Looks like there might be an issue around sort of St Andrews up to Oxford Road. That's unusual. And the N3 queuing this morning from Elands up towards Van Buren Road. Has come up towards Galilee's interchange. Durban, the M13 over the, I beg your pardon, Stapleton Road over the M13. That bridge remains closed, so there'll be a bit of diverting pressure again. Some good news, the Bluff Road reopened. That was closed between Doon Road and the M7 for a little while, but it has reopened. Roadwork still on the Esplanade if you're going into central Durban. Just the middle lane closed off, so you'll be sort of zigzagging left and right to get past that one. And Cape Town drying out. That's the good news from the Weather Service. Roads may be a little bit wet and slippery apart, so take it easy. And the N1 into town just starting to build up down towards Sable Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
For the first update of the week, let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, we'll start with the clock is ticking for all of us. The 9th of July is coming up, and that is the D-Day for those so-called Liberation Day tariffs. Tell me what the Trump administration is saying.
So now U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has warned that countries failing to reach a trade agreement with the Trump administration will face tariffs reverting to April 2nd levels by the 1st of August. Now, Bessent says this move aims to apply maximum pressure on trading partners to negotiate fair trade deals. Around a dozen countries are expected to receive letters outlining their new tariff rates effective from August, with some potentially facing rates as high as 60 to 70%. Now, Bessent emphasized that this isn't a new deadline, further saying it's a consequence of not negotiating in good faith. In addition, Bessent hinted at possible trade agreements being announced soon, suggesting progress in negotiations with some countries. Analysts are expecting to hear an update on the EU-US deal as both the nations held talks over the weekend. There are also some hesitation when it comes to BRICS-aligned nations, with Trump now threatening an additional 10% tariff on nations associated with BRICS.
Yeah, so it's D-Day, Liberation Day, Tariff Day for all of us coming up.
For all of us, Chilas.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about, in sort of other news that have to do with trade, what's happening between the EU and China as far as trade relations go?
So while we saw the tit-for-tat between the US and China cooling, retaliatory moves are taking place elsewhere, and that, of course, between China and the EU. China's finance ministry announcing restrictions on government purchases of medical devices from the European Union worth over $6.3 million. And this is in response to the EU's recent curbs on Chinese companies participating in public tenders for medical devices. The EU's measure targets contracts with $70 billion or more per year, citing a lack of fair access for EU firms in the Chinese market. China views this move as protectionist and has adopted, of course, those reciprocal measures restricting imports of medical devices from countries with EU-made components exceeding 50% of the contract value. Now, the restrictions, which take effect immediately, do not apply to products from European companies operating in China. Now, this development is part of the escalating trade tensions between China and the EU, with the EU imposing tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and China imposing duties on imported brandy from the EU.
It's all topsy-turvy, isn't it? Up is down, down is up.
Down is up.
What's going on, Dolly?
It's a simulation. It must be a simulation, I'm convinced.
Ooh, what a generation we are. Tell us how the markets are looking.
So reflecting on how markets closed to last Friday, trade was mostly muted, with U.S. markets closed on account of the July 4th holiday. Coming back home, markets closed mixed, with the all-share closing 0.25% higher. That was really boosted by a 2.6% jump in the Resources 10 complex, and that fueled by a surge in platinum prices. Over on the currency front, the rand retreating from 8-month highs this morning. It is trading at 17.69 against the dollar. Lastly, in Asia, markets mostly in the red, with investors still concerned about the looming trade deal deadline.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechala with the first update of the morning. She'll be back with more insights for you just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's go to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz, on this Monday morning. What's this placard that is written Wantam? And I'm pretty sure it's probably pronounced very differently, but it's spelled WANTAM. What's that got to do with the Kenyan president?
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa, to the listeners. Thulas, you will recall what has been going on in Kenya with the young people contesting the what they'll call the Hustler Nation governance of William Ruto. Now, the one term, it's actually coming from the word one-term leader, that they are calling that by 2027, Ruto's first term as a president must expire. So he is only eligible to one term, according to the young people of Kenya. But remember, being the fifth president of Kenya, Thulas, he has only 3 years into power, and the issues of financial tax measures has been the push and the pull that has caused him this call by young people saying, President William Ruto deserves only one term. But the wave of this protest, as we know from last year, and also early this year, they've been going on. Universities also, when you look at the university thinkers, they are saying actually President Ruto is facing a serious concern in terms of dealing with the young people of Kenya. The issues of corruption have been raised to us by these young people of Kenya. The police conduct amongst protesters has been the issue also, that the young people are concerned about his style of governance.
And then tell me about what we've been hearing from the Rwandan president, Paul Kagame. What is he saying about this recently brokered deal between his country and the DRC?
Thulas, Kagame spoke this on Friday after he'd been missing in action for some time, but also being the Liberation Day for Rwanda. Paul Kagame raised the issue that it will depend on the goodwill of parties, and saying that Washington actually is not the implementer of this peace deal. It will be important for both Rwanda and DRC to stick to the principles and to the agreements of this, to the norms and values of this peace agreement. Despite that, you will know that Paul Kagame has been worried that he has been accused of being supporting the M23 rebels, and he's still insisting that there is nothing like that, and hence he's also raising the issues around how both the DRC government and the government of Rwanda must stick to the principles of that peace deal, rather than looking at Washington as it will be the implementer, but actually it was the mediator. But also we know what are the deals to us. Even if you are having the peace deal between Rwanda and DRC, there's also talks in Doha going on between the government of DRC and the M23. So that shows that one has to look at the both parallel processes, that post-Washington, what Doha will it bring can bring peace in the Eastern DRC.
Lastly, Sipho, touch on the BRICS summit. In a way, President Ramaphosa is sort of removed a little bit from the boiling pot here at home, just dealing with geopolitics at the BRICS summit at the moment.
Yeah, Thulas, but even in the BRICS, the 17th one, peace and security issues are very important. Issues of secrecy, issues of trust among leaders are very important. Yeah. And that's what we have seen, that landing also from Rio yesterday from Brazil, had to deal with our national domestic issues. But Brazil was very important, Thulas, looking at the 17th BRICS summit, that I looked at the African conflict. So what was our clear stance as the African continent? We have raised the conflict in the DRC, the conflict in Sudan. Yes, there's a conflict between Russia and Ukraine and Iran and America and Middle East. But I think the most important issue that President Ramaphosa agreed there is how the world will agree on geopolitics of these two-day summit, issues of humanitarian impact, issues of resolving conflict through diplomacy, and also to us looking at the role of South Africa under the G20, how this summit also look at supporting the G20 presidency of South Africa, as well as supporting the AU theme of the year of access to justice and reparation. So this was an important summit, which we are expecting today to us that they will come out with a declaration, which is very long to us. When I read it, almost 31 pages, 125 resolutions. I don't know how are they going to implement them, but it is a heavily loaded declaration that comes from Brazil.
All right. Lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, you're going to tell us about someone who actually did have a one-term.
Correctly. This man had a one-term, actually. We're talking about Nelson Mandela 29 years ago, confirming those rumors that he will not stand for the 1999 elections, the then 1999 elections, and that, as we know, he did say before that in early 1994 that he will only serve one term, not two terms or three terms, as we see in other African countries. But he has actually said that he will only serve one term, and we know that President Ramaphosa and President Thabo Mbeki were the likely favorites, but President Mbeki, through the 1997 conference in Mahikeng, was able to be the one who succeed President Nelson Mandela. Asante sana Thulas, as was leading the conversation, SAFM observing the International Mandela Month.
Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, and a new term, favorite term, one term, coming through from the youth in Kenya, which means one term. You are likely going to serve just one term as a president, being the caution from the stories that Sipho outlined for us there.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's get to the story now. After years of quarantine and strict controls, the government has successfully contained foot and mouth disease in parts of the Eastern Cape and Limpopo. Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen announcing the lifting of long-standing disaster management area restrictions in affected municipalities, marking a major milestone in the country's efforts to control the highly contagious livestock disease. Let's speak to Dipepe Neneng Serage, who is Deputy Director General for Agricultural Production, Biosecurity and Natural Resources Management. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So just give us a sense then of how we got to this point where we are able to now lift the restrictions around areas in these two provinces.
Good morning to you, Thulas, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you very much for having us. So it takes a long process to finally be able to lift or rescind the disease management area. This basically means all the animals that were infected or vaccinated have got to be out of the system. That's me just simplifying how long it takes and what happens in order for you to end up being at a stage where you're able to lift the suspension. So it follows a lot of work, vaccination, obviously immediately after the outbreak. And thereafter, as you know, these are livestock, these are animals that some of them owners trade with, and it's a business. Livestock is a business. So that process takes some time, and that's for Limpopo. And in the Eastern Cape, mostly these were dairy animals. And also, as you know, dairy animals live longer than beef animals. As you understand, dairy animals it takes longer for you to get them out of the system, or to be at a stage where you have successfully ensured that the virus is no longer circulating.
So how do we determine that the virus is no longer circulating? At what point are you comfortable that we are over this current outbreak?
It's testing, basically testing. The animals are tested, and animals once. Let me just maybe simplify it, how it happens. The minute an outbreak of foot and mouth disease happens and is detected, the first thing we do is to vaccinate. Why do you vaccinate? To prevent those that are positive from sharing the virus with those that are negative. So then immediately they get branded F. So they get branding as in the mark on the animal itself, on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So they get F branded. This is for us to identify them and to know them that these are the animals that were vaccinated. And obviously, when you vaccinate those that have got symptoms, clinical signs, or those that you suspect that they might have been in close contact with those that are positive. So you have the group of animals that you then have identified as part of the outbreak. Now, they have to go out throughout the system. They've got to be, if it's beef animals, some of them would have been vaccinated not because they were positive, but because it was preventative. Then they would have been branded, and then they'll go through the process of being, if it's beef animal, they would have been sold and slaughtered and all of that.
Yeah.
And those that, obviously, basically, let me simplify it, basically, animals that are involved in the outbreak will have to go through the system and be vaccinated and be slaughtered. So clearing them is what makes us comfortable that the virus is no longer circulating, or those that are positive. Sometimes after vaccination, the virus might no longer be circulating, but you'd understand that those that are positive, those that are vaccinated, if they get into contact with another virus, the reaction will be different from those that were never vaccinated. So it's a tedious exercise.
So that's the picture in the Eastern Cape and Limpopo, but we are not over the current outbreak in particular in KwaZulu-Natal and areas of Gauteng. What can you say about that? Because my understanding is that you are now escalating the vaccination process even in those provinces. But how far are we from a situation where we would have a lifting of restrictions?
Yeah, so let's simplify it this way. So foot and mouth disease comes from viruses, a virus that is shared from buffaloes. So this makes the provinces of KZN to the close proximity with Thulasizwe that has positive buffalo head, and the provinces of Mpumalanga and provinces of Limpopo because of Kruger National Park. Now, you always, at any given point, will have virus that circulate in areas that are closer to the borders of Kruger National Park or to Thulasizwe Game Park. Now, what we have done is to create what we call a protection zone, meaning an area. So if you think of it as virtually, think of a map that makes the area closest to those places, the game farms that I've mentioned, that is the place that we call protection zone. So animals in that zone have to be continuously vaccinated to ensure that in the event they get infected, they do not pass the virus over to the inland. So that continues. The vaccination continues there. Now, Gauteng, it's not supposed to have happened because Gauteng is far from any of the three provinces, but it happened. Somebody moved the animals. So we vaccinated Gauteng. As we speak, you would have heard that we bought 900,000 vaccine doses. We've been vaccinated. Gauteng is fairly stable, but it has got to go through the whole process that I explained that will lead to us to lift the disease management area.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights, and we will touch base with you, I suppose, in the coming weeks, just for an update, because this has been an issue of concern for quite some time. That's Dipepeneneng Serage, who is Deputy Director General for Agricultural Production, Biosecurity and Natural Resources Management at the Department of Agriculture.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Couple of big junction high volume lights are out of action across Gauteng this morning. One is Pinehaven, that's the R28, it's the N14, Hendrik Potgieter. It's already busy if you're leaving Krugersdorp on that R28 coming up from Silverstar in the Pinehaven. It is absolutely jam-packed. The other big light that's down is the mighty Mopani Highway at Eskia and Pathlali Drive. Short time ago, it was a 7 kilometre an hour movement and a 30-plus-30-minute delay. So traffic now backlogging from the hairpin bend and backlogging heavily all the way down that R80 into Eskia and Pathlali. You might want to use some alternative routes. Traffic lights are also off on Steve Biko at De Beer, so the run down through Vanderbilt Pass getting pretty heavy as well. Roadworks in Braamfontein on Smith Street between sort of Annette Street and the Mike 1 Highway, just causing a bit of a bottleneck for early morning traffic out that way as well. A little bit happening around the Durban region this morning. A stationary truck on your way to Pietermaritzburg before you get to Market Road. That's causing a delay. There's also a breakdown on the N2 North before Gateway. So the N2 starting to backlog from Komashu Highway going up that way, and looks like a breakdown on the N2 South around Clare Road Bridge. That traffic running from Umgena Road into Spaghetti Junction started to get quite heavy as well. Cape Town N7 North just queuing passing Langa, and not surprising, flooding still with us this morning after very heavy rains over the last few days in Cape Town. Dana Fontaine Road and Govan and Becky, it's a construction site, plus you've got some fairly severe flooding in there. So both of those routes, Govan and Becky and Dana Fontaine Road, both under pressure this morning. More so than normal. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3, where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
8 minutes to 7. Heavy downpours over the weekend have triggered widespread flooding across Cape Town's Cape Flats and surrounding suburbs, displacing thousands and submerging roads. Informal settlements and low-lying areas have been hardest hit, prompting disaster response efforts from city officials, humanitarian organizations, and animal welfare groups. The full scale of the damage is still being assessed as emergency teams work to deliver critical aid and restore essential services. So let's speak to Charlotte Powell from Disaster Risk Management. Charlotte is the spokesperson for Disaster Risk Management. Good morning to you, Charlotte, and thank you for your time. Just give me a sense of the devastation and what you're dealing with by way of affected areas. How are those areas affected, and how large an area are we talking about?
Yes, good morning to you and to all the listeners. Yes, so it's been quite challenging for us in the city of Cape Town. We had disruptive rainfall, 2 cold fronts coming in since last week and over this weekend. So many communities have been seriously waterlogged. On Friday night, we had heavy rainfall in the Athlone area where the Faces-Kraal Canal burst its banks. So that's affected quite a few residents living in the area, not only in the informal settlement, but also the RDP homes, as well as the formal areas. So when the canal overflows, it resulted in flooding and overflowed into the adjacent areas. So many roadways in that particular area has been blocked, and of course the drainage systems also was taking strain because of the amount of rainfall. And then of course we had most of our informal settlements across the metropole has been affected, and our NGO partners are currently seeing to approximately about 55,000 people.
So tell me about the impact then on livelihoods and just the disruption that it has brought. My understanding is that it's mostly in the informal settlements, that the way you see most of the humanitarian impact.
Absolutely. So we have quite a few informal settlements in our city, and some of them are in natural water causes like wetlands, retention ponds, floodplains, and very low-lying areas. So people living in those conditions will be affected badly because it's a natural water cause. So the only alternative that we have is to relocate these residents. So our NGO partner, City Services, has been working around the clock, providing million and stand and also humanitarian relief. We also reached out to our National Human Settlements Department to come make assessments so that they can also assist people to rebuild.
And in terms of the resources that you need, you're talking about partnering with humanitarian organizations, relocations, and the like. How are you looking for the resources that you need in order to be able to assist people, be it from, items of food, clothing, furniture, whatever it is that you need to be able to respond at scale to the disaster?
Yes, absolutely. So since we've been engaging with communities, we did a call for donations since the severe weather event has happened, and we rely very relying on our Cape Town residents to help support those that are in need, and donations have started to come in. And then also we're engaging with our corporate partners and also other NGOs to support us. The NGOs has been so fantastic. Really, they've really been coming on, holding hands with us and providing humanitarian relief. So it's been really great.
Lastly, Charlotte, how do people get involved? How do they get plugged in and reach you? Is there a center or a point where people can go through and deliver aid?
Yes, so we have several fire stations that we've made available in our city where people can drop off donations. It's the Goodwood Fire Station, Wynberg Fire Station, Constantia, Ruland Street, and so forth. So people can just drop off these donations, and then the disaster management officials will collect it from there.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Charlotte Powell, the Disaster Risk Management spokesperson in the city of Cape Town.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's rope you into the conversation because you make the conversation to come alive. Let's speak to Michael in Durban. Good morning to you, Michael. You want to talk to me about General Mkhwanazi this morning?
Yes, thank you very much. No, thank you. I also follow your show on SABC. On SABC News, I said you well handled and the questions you have asked were very relevant.
Thank you.
But I'm confused when I watch the response by the Chief Sibiya. He never speaks to the issues raised by Mkhwanazi. He just fly all over the air and not directly responding to the issues, conversations, evidence, and the date given by Mkhwanazi. I don't know what that response means to us.
Yeah.
Secondly, same thing applies to Paul Sullivan. I saw his response to this one. It just came gun blazing and attacked Mkhwanazi. But Mkhwanazi has provided details, nitty-gritties, date, communications to whom, by whom. But I'm not responding to that. What I'm saying is just an emotional response to whatever Mkhwanazi was saying. Of course, I could see with Mkhwanazi is frustrated. Mm-hmm. One could have actually raised these issues vigorously inside before he went to the media. That is my own observation.
No, thank you for that, Michael. I mean, my own sense of it is that if to use a legal term, I would say we have a prima facie case. A prima facie case is not proof beyond reasonable doubt or, a required level of proof.
Exactly.
But
there's a lot of investigation to be done.
Yeah, it just says, look into this. And I think that's as much as I can say. No, thank you for that, Michael. That's Michael.
Thank you very much.
And I say this based on, some of the things that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi shared in that media briefing, which he says are intercepts or downloads from a phone that they retrieved from a suspect that shows communication that talks about this unit being dismantled and their dockets are now with Sibiya, etc. At the very least, it's a prima facie case that says those who are named and implicated must now come back and rebut it. And that's not to say it's impossible to rebut. It just says, come out, let's hear your side of the story. Let me take this voice note very quickly.
It's Nicholas here in Gqeberha. Can I suggest that the minister be be suspended with immediate effect, because his hands need to come off those buttons. I think there are a lot of buttons that the minister can press now to defend himself or to interfere with the evidence. He needs to be out of office immediately, pending the investigation. As for Mkhwanazi, I am not worried about his life. If they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him long time ago. So kudos to him.
Yeah, importantly, he says he's not putting his own safety ahead of the priority and the task that he says is the task at hand, the safety and security of South Africans. Let's go to N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Mkhwanazi implicates police minister in WhatsApp communications, and Trump threatens additional tariffs for anti-American BRICS alignment. Good morning. The KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has made public WhatsApp conversations from seized cell phones that allegedly show a link between a member of a crime syndicate, an associate of the police minister, and Minister Senzo Mchunu himself. Mkhwanazi says attempted murder accused Vusimuzi Ket Matlala had a 360 million rand contract with the police. Mkhwanazi says there has been WhatsApp messages between Matlala and Brown Mokhotsi, and associate of Mchunu. He says Mokhotsi in turn allegedly communicated with Mchunu about the disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killing Stars team following a raid on Matlala's house.
Further analysis of the chats indicates that Vusimuzi Ket Matlala is financially supporting the Minister of Police and Mr. Brown Mokhotsi's political endeavors. This is supported by the evidence of conversation and the proof of payments of guests for January 8 traveling cost and the Ghana dinner in Cape Town, which was done in 2025. The proof of payment, we have it, as I said, we're going to share with you, where Mr. Matlala is sending this proof of payment to Mr. Brown Mokhotsi.
Mkhwanazi says organized crime syndicates have infiltrated the country's criminal justice system.
If an enemy comes to you, attack the enemy. Don't allow the enemy to take advantage. You can't just lie with your arms in your hands like that. You have to fight. So that's what we are doing now in KZN, and we shall fight. And this fight is very big. So it needs people who are committed, people who are not worried. No, they're going to chase you. They're going to arrest you. Get out of that prison and fight. They're going to suspend, they're going to dismiss you, they can get you out of the police. When you're out of the police, join men and women in the private sector that are dedicated in dealing with this criminality.
2 people have been shot dead in a gang-related incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson FC Van Wyk says reports indicate 2 vehicles with unidentified suspects pulled up at the corner of Cadillac and Riley Streets in Beacon Valley and began shooting at the victims. Van Wyk says the unknown assailants fled the scene and are yet to be arrested. At least 9 people have been shot dead in various areas across the township over the past few days. The local Community Police Forum says they'll be meeting with police management in the province on Wednesday to discuss solutions to the ongoing deaths. The man who has pleaded guilty to the murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary-General Sindiso Magaka in 2017 is due to be sentenced in the Pietermaritzburg High Court today. 37-year-old Sibusiso Ngengwa changed his plea to one of guilty last month, resulting in his case being separated from his 2 co-accused. Magaka, who served as a councillor in the Mzimkhulu municipality, was wounded in an attack in July of 2017. He died in hospital later that year. President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded former Deputy President David Mabuza with a state funeral Category 2, which will be held on Saturday in Mpumalanga. Mabuza passed away last Thursday at the age of 64 at a Johannesburg hospital. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says President Ramaphosa has ordered the national flag be flown at half-mast from today till the evening of the funeral as part of the mourning period.
In terms of the state official and provincial official funeral policy manual of the presidency, the state funeral Category 2 is reserved for the Deputy President of the Republic, an acting president, and former Deputy President. The state funeral Category 2 is conducted with prescribed military ceremonial honors.
And finally, U.S. President Donald Trump says countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group will be charged an additional 10% tariff in trade with the United States. Trump also earlier announced tariff letters with various countries would be delivered starting today. Shawan Price-Peace reports.
Trump on Truth Social warned that any country aligning itself with BRICS would be charged an additional 10% trade tariff and that there would be no exceptions to that policy. The BRICS group, which includes South Africa, India, Russia and China, is currently holding a leaders' summit in Brazil and seeks to prioritize and develop relations between the global south. Trump also posted that tariff letters and possibly deals would be delivered to countries starting on Monday.
Recapping the top story, the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has made public WhatsApp conversations from C's cell phones that allegedly show a link between a member of a crime syndicate and associate of the police minister and Minister Senzo Mchunu himself. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
You are the poster child, the biggest saver we've ever had.
I decided that I would contact Outsurance and let them work out what they could do for me.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, big saving. 2,794 Rand a month.
That's over 33,000 Rand a year.
And it was the easiest switch ever. Real people helping real people get real deals.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
What do you mean? You're listening to the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Let's get you an update from Zaikan.
Thank you very much, Thulas. Let's get straight into it. We're still reeling from the big one, and that's Vian Mulder. What an incredible innings. He's joining the Test cricketing royalty with the epic 264 not out. And we're building up to Banyana. They are in Morocco, about to defend the Women's Africa Cup of Nations title. All this and more just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Two really big traffic light failures at Bushy Ridge Cross Gauteng this morning. One Pinehaven, that's Hendrik Portgieter, R28 and 14. So coming out of Krugersdorp, it's all heavily backed up past Silver Star towards that. The other big one is the Mopani Highway at Eskia and Pathlali Drive. Short time ago, we had average speeds of 7 kilometres an hour and backlogs of 35 minutes to get through from Theo Martins down to the faulty lights at Eskia. If you know that part of Pretoria, maybe hit some alternative routes and avoid sitting for that long on the Mopani Highway this morning. Mike 1 coming into Joburg's pretty heavy from Boysons, and the N3 is bad again this morning. Breakdown at Van Buren, so coming out of Alberton and Germiston up to Gallipoli is very busy. Also a couple of breakdowns around the Durban region, one on the N2 South going into Spaghetti Junction, so that's quite heavy. The other breakdown is on your way to Pietermaritzburg between Ashburton and Market Road, so that causing some delays. And there's another one, in fact, on the N2 going north up to Gateway, so quite a heavy queue already from KwaMashu Highway as you line up on your way to the airport. Very slow only get past that. Cape Town today, collision on the N2 out towards Cape Town Airport, just by Robert Sobukwe. Watch for that. It's all pretty much on the left-hand side, but there might be some slowing traffic just as you approach that Robert Sobukwe exit. The N1 fairly slow this morning from Plattercliff down towards the Sable Road exit. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 10 minutes after 7 on this Monday. It is great to be in your company. We're into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Without wasting much time, we want to dive straight into the story of the day, of this week, the allegations that have been made by the Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Commissioner of Police in KwaZulu-Natal. They are enough to leave your head spinning. It's a volley of allegations, I've described it. As you are paying attention to the one, another one comes up and it hits you. It's replete with names, characters that some of us didn't know until yesterday, but now we've come to know quite well. Names like Brown Mokhotsi, a name that has come up quite a lot. Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, another name that the police commissioner in KZN is talking about. In essence, his allegation is that the cause of justice in this country is being perverted by, syndicates that have their tentacles reaching as far as law enforcement, that is police, JMPD, Metro Police and Metropolitan Police Departments, as well as correctional services. Prosecutors are named in there without their names, of course, being brought to the fore, as well as members of the judiciary and politicians in parliament. It's a lot to take in. So what we want to do in this hour is to unpack it all. So we'll do exactly that starting in the next few minutes. You can be a part of the conversation as usual. Call me 086 000 2032 or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. Let's get it started in the second hour.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag The Morning Brief.
All right, so let's start with that story then. The country's law enforcement is in fully fledged crisis mode following bombshell allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against the police's top brass, including Minister Senzo Mchunu. Mkhwanazi has alleged that Mchunu has moved to wind down the political killings task team as a form of reprisal against the unit, which, according to Mkhwanazi, had started investigating syndicates in Gauteng that have police and correctional services officials, prosecutors, members of the judiciary and politicians serving in parliament under their control. He's gone on to allege that the police Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, is a criminal, an allegation that Sibiya has rejected. Take a listen to what Mkhwanazi had to say in that briefing.
In the year 2024, a request was received from Gauteng Organized Crime Investigating Unit to assist with the investigation to dismantle the organized crime syndicate that was operating in Gauteng, that was controlled in Gauteng but operating in the rest of the country and in neighboring countries. I, as the Provincial Commissioner, took a decision to deploy 10 members from this political killings task team to go and support this organized crime unit in Gauteng. I can tell South Africans that this decision was a cause for the disbandment letter of this team, because they overstepped their mandate of only focusing in KZN. They went to support Gauteng organized crime unit with the dismantling of a criminal syndicate. And I can confirm before the South Africans today that the investigation which these members were involved with in Gauteng has unmasked the syndicate. And this syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in parliament. The law enforcement officers include the members of the South African Police Service, the Metro Police, and correctional services. They include prosecutors in Gauteng province, the judiciary, and all these are controlled by the drug cartel as well as business people in that province of Gauteng.
All right, so that was the police commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, speaking yesterday. Let's take the conversation forward. Let's speak to Mary de Haas, who is a violence monitor in KwaZulu-Natal, also an honorary research fellow at the University of KwaZulu-Natal's School of Law. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time.
Good morning.
The part of the allegations that relates to the work of the political killings task team, were you surprised by what you heard, that they overstepped their mark and perhaps stepped on toes by assisting the police in Gauteng in trying to dismantle the syndicate?
No. Look, let me just put this in context. For months now, long-serving police have been complaining to me that General Mkhwanazi has taken over the role of the media people that the police employ, that it's highly unprofessional. Can I just put this in context? And that's quite frankly a pack of lies, and I'll tell you why. General Mkhwanazi is a provincial commissioner. We have 8 provinces in this country. He has no reason to speak about crime in the country generally. Right. He's got media people to put out about that. The person who is in charge is the National Commissioner. Right. Now, you don't go to the media, you go to Parliament if you have a problem. Not a media briefing like this. If there is a problem, if you have allegations against anyone, including a minister, you open a case, you get it investigated. But if you have these sorts of complaints, you go to the Parliamentary Oversight Committee. That's what they're there for, to hold ministers, to hold government officials to account. Right. Now, let me tell you why it's a pack of lies. This political killings team has been operating all over the country for years. It's got nothing to do. I mean, if you really want to know where the syndicates are, they're here in this province. And they also, of course, go to Umhlanga, go to La Mercy. That's where the people who run the syndicates are, in places like that. Okay, not just Gauteng. There's syndicates all over this country. Okay, now the political killings task team has been operating all over the country. Don't you know the story about what happened to those 2 lawyers in Cape Town who were investigating corruption at Port Hare? That was the political killings task team, with balaclavas on, with rifles on, taking files that are legally privileged. They've been operating all over this country since they started. And I can tell you, I was the one who went to Parliament last year asking for an inquiry into the political killings team, giving them case studies of how innocent people had been arrested. One of them was held without bail. They're also doing matters they have no mandate to do. They're not supposed to be investigating corruption and fraud. That's the role of the Hawk. They're keeping people without bail whose charges are withdrawn 5 years later. They're torturing people. They've not achieved anything. Every case study I've got, they're covering for politicians.
So these numbers that he shared. So these numbers that he shared, what are we to make of that then? If you're saying that they've not achieved anything, I mean, it talks about sentences that have flowed from their work amounting to about 1,801 years imprisonment. Total of 128 accused found guilty on 106 cases. 29 accused sentenced to life imprisonment.
I've never seen a breakdown. I have never seen a breakdown. Please remember, I have got the Morani Commission used my database, right? Now, I'll give you one example. The cases, take the case of Mzintli. Mzintli is a former MK man who was a senior road traffic inspector in the Lower South Coast. He then reports the information he has about the killing of the speaker on the south coast to the Hawks. Nothing happens. The task team comes in. It gets covered up. They don't investigate it. His information is exactly the same as I have. He reports corruption in the municipality on the south coast. He gets arrested, charged with charges they have no mandate. Fairly minor charges about fraud or defeating the ends of justice. He's held without bail for 5 years. The charges are withdrawn in court this year because there is absolutely no evidence. Now, do you call that? They came in, take the Simelane Magaka case. The arrests were made by the provincial team. This team comes in and withdraws charges against people who were widely implicated in the killing of Magaka.
So I also want to ask you then, Merite Haas, when you say it's a pack of lies, what is a pack of lies? Which aspect are you talking about?
The aspect that they're suddenly getting into trouble for investigating Gauteng. They've been investigating all over the country for years.
What about the issue of the winding down of the unit itself? Is it as innocuous, as innocent as...
Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
It's a huge waste of taxpayers' money.
So when he talks about these 121... When he talks about these 121 dockets that he says have been languishing on the desk of Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, what do you make of that then?
I cannot speak for General Sibiya. I mean, he's up in Gauteng. He's a deputy national commissioner. I don't know what he's investigating. So I can't speak. I can speak about the work they've done in this province.
Yeah.
And I have this all in details. It's gone to ministers. It's gone to parliament. You're welcome to it. I have yet ever. You see, the question I'm asking myself is who put Mkhwanazi up to this? It's not his job. It's grossly unprofessional to come out in a media interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a couple of people have said to me, there he is in fatigues. It's like he's plotting a coup.
Why would he make up such stories and take this extraordinary step? He's got a lot to lose. This is and I think you will agree with me that in terms of the public perception, this is a police commissioner in a province who's riding the tide of popularity and support. So why would he then throw it all down the drain by making up these stories?
Oh, no, look, it's very easy to say. He's been deliberately building up this image. I have a different picture that I get from people all over this province. I'm actually very disappointed in him because a few years ago he seemed to be on the right track. He did a couple of good things. I think he got completely captured by the last minister. And I'm asking myself, who is pulling the strings? Who orchestrated all this and got him onto this platform? I don't think he did. I think it's probably the very syndicates that are using him themselves, quite frankly. And we know who they are. We know who runs.
Right.
We know who runs the trucking syndicates. We know that a former apartheid policeman convicted of drug dealings is very close to some politicians.
All right. Merite Haas, let's leave it there because of time. Thank you for your time this morning. Merite Haas is a violence monitor in KwaZulu-Natal, also an honorary research fellow at the University of KwaZulu-Natal's School of Law.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together, we've built progress hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government, and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next, mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
My name's Kaylin Swart, goalkeeper for Banyana Banyana. Between the 3 meals of the day, my favorite is breakfast. I always have eggs. Eggs is my superpower. In the house setup, my favorite place is the chill room. I'm always in front of the TV watching something. That's only because I get so little downtime. I just want to relax on the couch and watch TV, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, you name it. We are the African champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, let's take the views now of Ian Cameron, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, who joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So a wide array of allegations being made by the Provincial Commissioner of Police in KZN. Overall, what's your impression of the document that he has shared and the allegations that he has made against the Minister as well as the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia?
Good morning, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, it is absolutely damning what happened yesterday. Everything that was said obviously needs the relevant investigation to be done. I think it's important for all of us not to engage in trial by media, regardless of who you may support or not support. I think it's very important that we allow the law to take its course and that we let due process prevail. I think what is very worrying about it is the fact that it is up to the very highest level. The allegations that have been made indicate obviously the minister. I mean, we've all seen and heard what was said yesterday. And I think it would need a significant amount of police work to now confirm or not whether what was said yesterday is accurate or not.
So Meriti Haas, whom I just spoke to a few minutes ago, Violence Monitor, says, in her words, quote unquote, it's a pack of lies. I have suggested that perhaps at the very least, this may be a prima facie case that says investigate further. What's your sense? I mean, among some of what is shared, there are, conversations on WhatsApp and other communication platforms that were downloaded from a phone retrieved from a suspect, as well as things such as screenshots, proof of payment for certain, events that were being sponsored. What's your sense? Pack of lies or prima facie case?
Well, I can't say whether it's either or. What I can say, though, that I can't imagine that the provincial commissioner would take the risk that he took yesterday if he didn't have something solid to back it up. It just wouldn't make sense to me. It is literally and figuratively speaking suicidal move if you don't have evidence to back it up. And the fact that he had the amount of senior members sitting around him, task force members and NIU members, what seem to be NIU members in the background, also sends a very, very strong message. We might not all agree on the optics. That could be a debate for another day. But I think it's important that we have an opportunity to interrogate the information or the relevant evidence at hand.
Speak to that opportunity to interrogate the information he's put out and whatever evidence he may hold. What should that look like? President Ramaphosa urging caution and calm and saying, give me a moment, when I return, I will announce the next steps. What should the next steps look like from his side as well as from your side as people who exercise oversight over the police?
Sure. So from our side, I've already written to the Speaker of the National Assembly to ask that there is an urgent full parliamentary debate on the matter. But a debate alone won't solve the problem. I think it's important to have that public discourse about it, and therefore that is important. But also, we are planning to meet as a portfolio committee in a session where we would like to discuss what all the different remedies are. Look, the damage is already so big in the South African Police Service, and things are in such disarray that it's not going to make a difference whether it's in 24 hours or 72 hours. So we're looking at all the remedies. We have several sessions today ahead of us, and then we will communicate further. Obviously, the relevant inquiry from our committee side will be held with the minister too. What makes it more difficult is the fact that now you have to ask the minister about allegations against the very minister. So are we going to try and fulfill the role of a court of law, of a criminal court? We can't do that. So therefore, we've asked for guidance as well from the Speaker, because this does involve the President. And in my opinion, it'll be very interesting to see how the President approaches this, because when you look at it from a policing point of view, one would suspend any implicated police member to protect the integrity of the organization and so too the investigation. So I don't know how he's going to approach the minister.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Ian Cameron, who is chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning. It's Vian Mulder. Tell me about Vian and joining the Test cricket's royalty with what? 264 not out?
Awa. That's all I have to say. That wasn't a knock to us. I don't know what that was on Bulawayo soil. He just did a full service there and putting South Africa as well as his unbeaten 264 on the opening day, by the way, of the second test in Bulawayo. Now, this is the 7th highest individual score by a South African in a test innings, and it came just when the team needed a bit of inspiration. Teammate David Bedingham, who made 82, said Mulder led by example.
For Vesey to bat a whole what did he score? 260 odd. I know how hard he's worked for 5 years, and it's not just, let's say, the last three months. I think he's wanted it for so long. So I'm really happy and chuffed for Vesey. And yeah, I think as a team we all really like each other's success, but I think especially seeing Vesey do well, I think the team really likes it and appreciates it.
Zai, please go ahead.
More cricket. This time we've got the test between India and England. This time India had a 336-run victory, which was the second test at Edgbaston to level the series 1-1. The hosts, well, they ignored their target of 608, bowled out for 271 with 27 overs left. And soccer news, Banyana kick off their WAFCON title defence against Ghana's Black Queens at the Honour Stadium in Rabat tonight. The reigning champions, Banyana, are riding a 7-match winning streak, but Ghana's coach, Kim Bjorgensen, has fired a warning saying his side may not be favourites, but they're ready to surprise everyone. And of course, with 17 million rand in prize money on the line, the Group C clash ahead of Tanzania and Mali. Banyana are geared and ready, and you can catch it live on SABC Sport. And that's a wrap of the morning brief. We'll bring you more sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has vowed to respond to allegations levelled against him by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. 2 people have been shot dead in a gang-related incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. At least 9 people have been shot dead in various areas across the township over the past few days. And US President Donald Trump says countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group will be charged an additional 10% tariff in trade with the United States. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Couple of big lights out around Pretoria this morning. The Mopani Highway down at Esky and Patladi. Those lights are out. That's about a 25-minute queue to work through as a minimum. Also, a couple of lights down along Steep Eco through Vanderboom Pass, causing some extra delays. And the N1 South from Storumful heading down towards the N4 Hatfield exit. That's very slow as well this morning. Joburg's Mike 1, surprisingly busy from Boysons all the way through to about the Melrose area. If you're on your way to Sandton, there's a lot of traffic on that Mike 1 this morning. Also, a backlog on the R24 out towards the airport, queuing up through Barbara Road, out towards the sort of R21 exit in the airport entrance, and a lot of traffic all over Galilees, N3 from Germiston to Montefontaine. That's slow, and then behind that N12 and R24 routes, pretty backed up coming into Galilees from Ekurhuleni side. Other side of town, the Pinehaven traffic lights are down, so a lot of delays there, particularly on the R28 coming up from Krugersdorp, passing Silverstar. On your way to Pietermaritzburg, having left Durban, a breakdown before Market Road, backlogging heavily down to Ashburton. Crash on the N2 southbound near Westwood Mall, so between Mgena Road and Spaghetti Junction. That's pretty slow going in towards 4 level, passing that scene. On looking on the northbound side, plus the roadworks are coming north from the M7 up to Westwood Mall, heavy. And then you've got that second queue going north into a breakdown before Gateway, and that's heavy. It's almost back as far as Queen Lundy Drive today. Cape Town, Crash N2 out of town towards the airport just before Robert Sobukwe. There's a bit of pressure on that run through, and some big traffic lights down. Viking Way at Epping Industrial, Bosman's Dam out at Sandrift at Ratunga Road. That's very slow. And also the Plattekloof Road, Caltex entrance, Plattekloof and Tanzanite offline. So from Kuberg Road, you're going to sit getting across towards the N7 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndawling Lechela. Ndawling, tell me about Hong Kong.
Yes.
It looks set to reclaim that top IPO spot. What do we mean by that?
So, Thulas, what we essentially mean is that it's close to reclaiming the top spot when it comes to listings. So it seems like a number of companies are choosing to list in the UK over, let's say, Europe, for example, or the LSE in London or the New York Stock Exchange. So what we're seeing, there's currently 90 to 100 companies forecasted to raise up to 28 billion rands billion dollars this year, and the city's IPO market has been red hot, with total proceeds raised totaling $13.6 billion in the first half of this year, thanks to 44 IPOs. According to PwC, the momentum is expected to continue. Over 200 listing applications have been submitted, with many large cap companies on the A share market and those planning to spin off their China operations looking to list in Hong Kong. Now, despite competition from New York, which has $16.2 billion in listings so far this year, Hong Kong is expected to close the gap. An IPO many analysts are looking out for is Shein. There have been reports suggesting that the clothing retailer might list in Hong Kong as it faces challenges in London.
All right, that's an interesting one to look out for. Tell me about Hadako and the nearly 20% jump in profits that they've posted.
That's right, Thulas. The group really weathering tough trading conditions. Despite a 2.4% decline in revenue, the company reported a 19.6% increase in earnings. Hideko says this was achieved through cost control measures. Now, the consumer-related product segment faced headwinds with reduced volume sales in battery, energy, and power tool businesses. In contrast, the engineering consumable segment showed promise, particularly in diesel engine, electrical power transmission, and thermal plastic pipes. Those businesses, really the businesses that gave that Hideko a boost when it comes to its overall earnings. Now, talking about prospects, Hideko says its recent acquisitions, Isotech and FlowSolve, are anticipated to boost trading in the second half of the year. Over the first half, Isotech contributed 39 million rands to turnover and 5 million rands to operating profit. Hideko didn't note any gains from FlowSolve in the current reporting period, as the deal was only sealed last month.
So how do you pronounce it? It's Hideko, not Hadako, as I said. Yeah, it's not potato. How do you say it?
Hideko.
Aha, I see. Okay. You're saying you knew what? What did you know? It's fine. I won't mention your school where you went and the English you studied and you learned there. How are the markets looking, darling?
So kicking things off in Asia, stocks mostly in the red. The Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest hit, down close to 0.6%. Then over in the US, markets returning online after a long weekend ahead of the open. Futures are in negative territory, with investors eyeing trade developments with that July 9th deadline fast approaching. And then coming back home, the JSE ended last week mixed, with the all share up 0.25%, and the rand starting the week on the back foot at 17.71 to the dollar.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the third hour of the show, just after 8:30.
A new client, a bulk discount, a chance to expand. Business opportunities don't wait, but with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan, neither do you. Get up to 10 million Rand in funding, access it anytime, and borrow again as you repay, giving your business the cash flow it needs when it needs it. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank Business Revolving Loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
My name's Kaylin Swart, goalkeeper for Banyana Banyana. Between the 3 meals of the day, my favorite is breakfast. I always have eggs. Eggs is my superpower. In the house setup, my favorite place is the chill room. I'm always in front of the TV watching something. That's only because I get so little downtime. I just want to relax on the couch and watch TV, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, you name it. We are the African champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, I'm seeing all of your reactions to the conversation we had with Mary de Haas a short while ago, as well as the allegations broadly that have been made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. All of your calls lined up and your WhatsApp voice notes also lined up. But before I do that, let's hear from Paul O'Sullivan, who is a forensic consultant and criminologist, as well as a certified fraud examiner. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So let me start with a broad question. You've been involved in the past in many of the controversies involving past police commissioners and other senior officials. What do you make of the allegations that have been made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Yes, good morning to you. First of all, my involvement in the past controversies has been to expose them. I wasn't personally involved in the actual controversies themselves. The current situation is a lot deeper than it appears to be. There's a saying, still waters run deep. Mkhwanazi himself is under investigation, together with the Chief of Police, Masemola. I've been calling for the last several weeks for Masemola to either step down or for him to be suspended because of his involvement in certain other activities. Now, Mkhwanazi is involved with Masemola in those activities. And it appears to me that there was a lot of hype going on, I think, last week, where allegations were made that Masemola was imminently going to be arrested. I don't believe that was true. I think it was a hype that was created somewhere along the way by a third force. But the reality is Masemola is under investigation, and so too is Mkhwanazi. Now, I believe that what we saw on Sunday was a rearguard action by Masemola and Mkhwanazi. Certainly, Masemola would have had to approve his conduct. But for him to appear in public, dressed in combat uniform, task force uniform, actually, and he hasn't been in task force for something like 15 or 20 years. And there he is, dressed in task force uniform, surrounded by task force members with masks on and carrying weapons, and probably about 25 to 30 other police officials to hold a media briefing. Now, what was the purpose of having all those police officials there and the 10 task force members in uniform with guns and masks? I think the whole setup was intimidating. I received a phone call from a friend of mine overseas who saw it on YouTube, and he said to me, is there a coup going on in South Africa? He thought there was a coup going on because of the way this guy was conducting himself.
But Paul O'Sullivan, do the aesthetics and his flair for buttressing his message by those aesthetics, does it detract from the seriousness of the allegations he's making. He is naming people, and this is where I was talking about prima facie, where he says, we went and raided a home of one Vusumuzi, Kat Matlala, and got a cell phone. From there, we downloaded, and in that cell phone, he cites messages that were talking about how the task force, the task team that was troubling this Mr. Matlala has now been disbanded. Surely there's something for us to look into there, no?
No, absolutely it has to be investigated. I mean, we can't just discount it. But the way in which the allegations are couched and the aesthetics, as you refer to it, it was all meant for performance, for drama. And to be frank with you, it's not my function to address the allegations on behalf of the minister or on behalf of the NPA or on behalf of the Deputy National Commissioner or on behalf of the judiciary, because he pretty much made allegations against a whole host of people. But the reality is, having gone through the presentation, which I have done, I've picked up at least 30 to 40% of intentional lies. And I'm left wondering, if those are intentional lies, what else about it is true? I'd like to see the prima facie evidence rather than just see it on a presentation. Yeah. I'd like to see the flow of those messages. It needs to be forensically investigated. The president has taken the right steps. He's announced that there's going to be action on his return, and he's asked everybody to exercise restraint in the meantime. Of course, everybody is talking about the senior police officials. I'm hoping that when he returns, he will convene a impartial, perhaps led by a judge and a few advocates, a proper inquiry into these allegations.
All right.
But I hope he will also look into the other allegations against Mkhwanazi and against Masemola.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. That is Paul O'Sullivan, forensic consultant, criminologist, and certified fraud examiner.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Right, let's go straight to Mboneni in Enadale. Good morning to you, Mboneni. Short and sharp and to the point for me, please.
A very good morning, and thank you for taking my calls. Look, Thulas, the fact that yesterday Mkhwanazi Commissioner came forth and explained what is happening in the South African police services, this cannot be undermined. However, the Minister of Police, based on the evidence that was revealed to us via WhatsApp and stuff like that, this gives an opportunity to opposition party to ask Mkhunu to step down. And this is another blow for ANC, because we have seen what has happened before when a president just fired the DA member, and now DA will come forth and say, this is the time now again, President, we have been sick and tired about you. Mm-hmm. Your members in the cabinet are misbehaving and you are not taking any resolution about it. So for me, I'm appealing to the South Africans and the different provinces so that we can stand behind Mkhwanazi, and if we need to protest, we have to protest, because we are sick and tired with all these officials who are involved in all syndicators. So anyway, as you have said to us, that it might be a prima facie case. My interpretation is that it is not at all. The reality has been said, and I don't feel comfortable with what Mary said and said it's a pack of lies. Mm-hmm. I think she's very close to the minister. That's my take, because she cannot be baseless like the way she explained to you based on her analysis. And again, I don't trust Paul Sullivan. Mm-hmm. He has been in Bedfordville with so many cases of Czech Republic figurative and fugitive, I mean, to speak. And then he has never done anything about that. So even yesterday, Paul Sullivan gave just a bit of analysis to say why Mkhwanazi went to the media without authorization of Masemola, and therefore why he was dressing the task force uniform and stuff like that. So we don't believe in him, and I don't know why you invited him, because he's been there doing all these sort of things as a consultant of researcher.
Mboneni, thank you for that. Multiple perspectives, I suppose, is what it's all about. In fact, having said exactly that, let me hear from Calvin Rafadi, who is a crime analyst and forensics in forensics at UJ, also a research associate. Good morning to you, Calvin. What do you make of the allegations, as you've heard from Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Yeah, indeed. When we speak of ethics, he didn't act properly. But let me just phrase it simple for you. Mkhwanazi went to Parliament and spoke about Mr. Brown. So this is the second part of the series. But what I can tell you, this thing has got a name tag of Pala Pala in it. And then the issue is that among the top brass, even some of us, the forensic investigators and certified fraud examiners, we fall into fiction. We happen to be falling into fiction. So whoever speaks, you must check, is he on the side of the Mkhwanazi or the side of Mr. Masemola? Then there's an issue at crime intelligence that we've always been calling the president to look into, which is the fight between Feroz Khan and General Khumalo. Now, all of this led to some of these issues to be brought now into the public space. Again, the issue of the hiring of the top brass, the new vacant position of the head of the Hawks, that is another issue that everybody now, they knew the name tag that was supposed to be issued that particular, awarding of that position, but unfortunately it is then re-advertised. So it is those type of issues. But again, what the ANC needs to look at is that I feel that Mr. Bekikele also is very aggrieved the time when he was removed now as a minister of police. And somehow I feel that Mr. Senzo also gets to be compromised. So are the two seeing eye to eye? Are they working hand in hand? Was there a proper handover of some of these issues, especially with the political killing tax team? The answer is no. And that aggravated to a point that we are seeing all of this now, fictions and throwing one another with a poisonous snake in the public domain.
So as far as we hear the allegations, Kelvin, about a criminal syndicate, because I think that's really the most worrying, point of it all, that says you have a unit being dismantled because it was assisting the police in Gauteng deal with a criminal syndicate, which syndicate has in its pockets and, in its books, among people that it works with, serving members of parliament, members of the judiciary, prosecutors, members of the police and the likes, and there are links between individuals linked to the syndicate, to the minister, to the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection. Just that element alone, what do you make of it? Is there enough there that General Mkhwanazi has put out that's worthy of further investigation and follow through at the very least?
Yeah, let me confess this. All those allegations, by the way, they are all true. I'm on the ground. I know some of the names even of those that were catered for the January 8th. So that's why I'm saying again that it's an issue that, the two giants, which is Mr. Bekikele and Senzo Mchunu, there's a big tension amongst the two, and the other is compromising the other. And then based on that, they've got their own people within the structure of the top brass, structures of crime intelligence, and that's what now undermines, their fight to be taken to that point that certain of those members belonging to certain fictions, and then they can't reach a goal of fighting crime. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that all those allegations that Mr. Mkhwanazi spoke about, they are true. Take it from me, and it will emerge. There might be a part 3 series now where you'll even hear about who doesn't qualify to have a security clearance, who's got a farm, which animals were brought by which car, and what is happening. So there are more series that might emerge if the president doesn't act on this part 2 series.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Kelvin Rafadi, a crime analyst, also a research associate at University of Johannesburg.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very busy on Gauteng highways. A lot of just volume. So you might be thinking of school holidays. It'll be a lot easier. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. Certainly not by today's standards. Anyway, give you a couple of examples of that. The Mike 1 from Boyson's all the way through to Corlett Drive. The N1 from Bayers Nordia round to Ravonia Road. There's a lot of pressure on the M1 and N3 routes as well, getting up through Buccleuch for connections to Midrand. The Mike 1 from Buccleuch down to Marlborough Drive looking pretty heavy. Delays on the N3 M3 from Germiston through Galulis onto the N12. The N12 and R24 from Ekurhuleni into Galulis pretty heavily backed up. And the R24 towards the airport, queuing through Barbara Road as you make your way out towards the sort of R21 and the airport entry. Roadworks on the R21 South near Engine causing delays this morning. Not horrendous at this stage, but there is a slowdown as you come from Clayville down into Tembisa. And a crash on the M1 South at Storumful Road in Pretoria. Traffic backlogging through, well, it's before the N4 highway, actually, before you get to the Hatfield and Emerlafleni split, so it's backlogging back through Storumful Road. Durban's having a pretty busy start to the new week as well. A crash on the N2 southbound at Westwood Mall. That's heavy coming through from Inanda Road on your way to Spaghetti Junction. Motorists going north having a look at it, so extra delays heading up through 4 Level that way. And then it gets really heavy from Queen Nandi Drive up to a breakdown in the roadworks at Umhlanga. It looks like just a single lane open to process you through there. Ashburton to Market Road going into Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown causing some delays. At Cape Town, if you're on your way out to the airport using the N2, there is a crash scene just by Robert Sobukwe. That is a bit slow. There's also a breakdown at Plattekloof Road on your way out of town, so that's really busy from sort of Monte Vista territory. And a couple of big lights are down, noticeably, Bosmansdam and Ratunga. That's slow coming off the N7 highway through that Sandrift area. And Viking Way at Jan van Riebeeck Avenue in Epping Industrial. Lights are down there if you're coming in from Elsie's, a bit slow as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Temba, how do I check if I've been auto-assessed by SARS?
No need to stress at all. Go to the SARS online query system dashboard, SOX. It only takes a few minutes.
Really? Where do I find it?
Go to the SARS website and then look for the SOX dashboard icon. Make tax matters your priority number 1. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Straight to your calls then. Let me start with Peggy in Mpumalanga. Good morning to you, Peggy. Short and sharp for me, please.
Thulas, we are on our own. It's safe to say that what I want to say is that where are we going to run to when our judiciary is implicated, when the police force is implicated, when parliament is implicated? Those are the 3 spheres of government. And the question is, if the president himself is going to be implicated and Pala will take a stage in this matter, where are we going to? But my take, I want to say that if there is any way Parliament can pass a law that will allow competent investigators like FBI to assist in this situation, where there will be punctual, where there will be fair and no strings attached, no parties attached, the truth will come. But as long as this is going to be investigated by the judges of South Africa or the people of South Africa, we are far from getting the truth. I thank you.
All right, thank you for that. That's Peggy out in Mpumalanga. Let me go to Jack in Bombela. Good morning to you.
Morning, Thulas.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I would like to be short. As long as the ANC government is in power, it is always going to be corruption. I plead to all the South Africans to vote these corrupt leaders out. Next time they must vote them out. They will never complain. Thank you, Thulas.
All right, thank you for that, Jack in Mbombela. Let me go to Kirk in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Kirk. Short and sharp for me, please.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I agree with the caller, the two previous callers. The ANC does not have the capacity to police itself. Excuse the pun. The police are rotten to the core. The crime intelligence is rotten to the core. I don't know what the solution is, but our problems run so deep that if the judiciary is being implicated or being accused of these things that Mkhwanazi has mentioned, where do we turn? Yeah. We can't trust the politicians. We can't trust the police. We can't trust the judiciary. I don't know. It's so scary.
Yeah, no,
so scary.
It absolutely is. Kirk, thank you for that call. That's Kirk out in Cape Town. Linda, if you don't mind, could I call you back and just take your call a bit later on? I am running up to news. Let me go straight then to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Police Minister vows to respond to Mkhwanazi's allegations, and Trump threatens new tariffs on nations supporting anti-American policies. Good morning. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has vowed to respond to allegations levelled against him by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The KZN police head accused Mchunu of having contacts with criminals, leading to the disbanding of the Political Killing Stars team, which had been investigating high-profile murders and arresting syndicates. Mchunu says he will not let his integrity and that of the ministry be undermined by allegations made without evidence or without following due processes.
Well, we have become aware of what General Mkhwanazi said we have been saying. I didn't have time to look at TV, but those statements that he has made, we will, in good time, apply our mind to those kind of statements.
Mkhwanazi has made public WhatsApp conversations from seized cell phones that allegedly show a link between a member of a crime syndicate, an associate of the police minister, and Minister Mchunu himself. Mkhwanazi says attempted murder accused Vusimuzi Kat Matlala had a 360 million rand contract with police. Mkhwanazi says there has been WhatsApp messages between Matlala and Brown Mukhotsi, and associate of Mchunu.
Further analysis of the chats indicates that Vusimuzi Kat Matlala is financially supporting the Minister of Police and Mr. Brown Mohotsi's political endeavors. This is supported by the evidence of conversation and the proof of payments of guests for January 8 traveling cost and the Ghana dinner in Cape Town, which was done in 2025. The proof of payment, we have it, as I said, we're going to share with you, where Mr. Matlala is sending this proof of payment to Mr. Brown Mohotsi.
2 people have been shot dead in a gang-related incident in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson FC Van Wyk says reports indicate 2 vehicles with unidentified suspects pulled up at the corner of Cadillac and Riley Streets in Beacon Valley and began shooting at the victims. Van Wyk says the unknown assailants fled the scene and are yet to be arrested. At least 9 people have been shot dead in various areas across the township over the past few days. The local community policing forum says they'll be meeting with police management in the province on Wednesday to discuss solutions to the ongoing deaths. 2 learners from Lesedi Secondary School in Pretoria charged with the premeditated murder of a fellow learner are expected to apply for bail when the case resumes in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court this morning. Grade 10 learner Litabo Mukonyane was stabbed outside the school gate last month. He was rushed to hospital where he died a few hours later. The NPA's Lumka Mahanjana says the state will oppose bail.
After a brief appearance in court, the matter was postponed to the 7th of July for a Schedule 6 bail application. The state intends to oppose their release on bail.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has accorded former Deputy President David Mabuza with a state funeral Category 2, which will be held on Saturday in Mpumalanga. Mabuza passed away last Thursday at the age of 64 at a Johannesburg hospital. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says President Ramaphosa has ordered the national flag be flown at half-mast from today till the evening of the funeral as part of the mourning period.
In terms of the state official and provincial official funeral policy manual of the presidency, the state funeral Category 2 is reserved for the Deputy President of the Republic, an acting president, and former Deputy President. The state funeral Category 2 is conducted with prescribed military ceremonial honors.
And finally, U.S. President Donald Trump says countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group will be charged an additional 10% tariff in trade with the United States. Trump earlier announced tariff letters for various countries would be delivered starting today. Showan Price-Peace reports.
Trump on Truth Social warned that any country aligning itself with BRICS would be charged an additional 10% trade tariff and that there would be no exceptions to that policy. The BRICS group, which includes South Africa, India, Russia and China, is currently holding a leaders' summit in Brazil and seeks to prioritize and develop relations between the global south. Trump also posted that tariff letters and possibly deals would be delivered to countries starting on Monday.
Recapping the top story, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has vowed to respond to allegations levelled against him by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Have you heard the latest news? Vincent, a 40-year-old man, wanted to save money on his car insurance premium, so he got a quote from Outsurance. Vincent now saves a massive 990 Rand a month on his 2022 Ford Ranger 2.2 litre. Get a quote today. See how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's soccer action. Banyana are geared up for Ghana in their Women's Africa Cup of Nations title defense opener. And we'll also bring you wheelchair tennis with our very own Alwanda Skosana clinching double victory at the TSA International. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria. First up with a crash on the M1 South. Just before you get to the N4 Emelafeni Hatfield split, traffic backlogging through Storenville Road. And the lights are down on the Mopani Highway at SKM Pathwani, so still some heavy queues that way as well. Joburg, traffic all over the highways. N1 from Bayers Nordia to Ravonia. N3 from Germiston through to Edenvale. The Mike 1 from Buccleuch backed up all the way down to Marlborough Drive on your way slowly to Sandton this morning. And a bit of pressure through Buccleuch, N3 and N1 routes into the interchange for connection sections to Midrand looking busy. There's roadwork delays on the R21 this morning approaching the NGen services, so Clayville through Tembisa towards the airport all backed up. Ashburton into Pietermaritzburg still being held by that breakdown before Market Road. A lot of traffic diverting off onto the R103 and causing some delays there. Crash on the N2 South before Spaghetti Junction. That's heavy coming through from Inanda Road, and a breakdown in the roadworks at Mshlanga. Looks like just one lane open. A big queue from Queen Nundy Drive heading through towards that gateway obstruction. Cape Town, the M5 fairly busy this morning, queuing up through Rondebosch all the way through to Coburg Interchange. A breakdown at Plattekloof Road on your way out of town, holding traffic to Belleville, and a crash approaching the airport on the N2 just before you get to Robert Sobukwe. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 9 minutes after 8. We are into the third hour of the Morning Brief on this Monday. It is really great to be in your company. I must acknowledge the massive responses that we are receiving from the conversations we've had this morning. And I don't want to hold anything back. Even when you are critical, we'll put it out there and reflect your criticism of some of what you've heard this morning. So, Vugani Netegwini, for example, says the SABC has this tendency of bringing these unscrupulous characters to discredit legitimate leadership in police, like this Mary Haas. We know her in KZN. She hasn't done anything when there's violence, and going on to make that point about, Mary Haas, according to Vugani, being frustrated with Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who is, according to Vugani, unraveling evidence that all these people are trying hard to hide. The biggest problem we have in the country, according to Vugani, we have been infiltrated by unscrupulous foreign criminals, and we have proxies of them in the country. That's the message from Vugani in eThekwini. Then there's a message from Stembiso Malusi in Mahlaba, who says, your guest, Paul O'Sullivan, is once more sounding like one of those people implicated than an expert in anything. Let me just read one more. And someone says, now I understand why drug trafficking syndicates, gang violence in the Western Cape and Johannesburg, and extradition of suspected criminals in other countries is not receiving priority. That is from Lindiwe this morning. I read these, folks, to just make the point that it is absolutely okay to hear the alternative view to yours, right? Having heard everything that I've heard from Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, I may not agree with the approach that should that have been his first step. I don't know whether that was his first step. Did he try to raise these issues internally? Did he approach the various committees in Parliament? Did he write to the President? Did he write to the Minister? I don't know. And that's part of what we will find out over the next few days and weeks. But do I see enough there that I say, if there's any possibility that what he's saying is true, we are in deep, that word that I don't want to say. Absolutely. That's why I said prima facie, which is a legal term that says on the face of it, looking at what he is saying, let's investigate, folks. It can't be taboo to even raise and broach the subject and say, let's investigate. But it also can't be taboo for some people to question him and say, what prompted him to act in this way? Why is he acting in this way? And bringing forth some of their own perspectives, including investigations that have been widely reported about, including, being acknowledged by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi himself. So the point I'm making is you lose nothing when you hear the perspective of other people. If they are making sense, you will be convinced and won over. But if they are not making sense, it's all fair and fine for you to continue to hold on to your thoughts on any particular topic. So that's the point, really, of this friction, this creative friction, intellectual friction that we bring to the show on a daily basis. There is absolutely no agenda to discredit anyone. come onto the show, challenge us, challenge the guests that we bring on. You are more than welcome to do that. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 061 410 4107. Let's get the third hour of the morning brief started.
The Copper Queens are not willing to settle for anything less than a win. But the Teranga Lionesses believe they have everything under control to roar with victory to the referee's final whistle. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the thrilling action between the West and the South. Zambia versus Senegal this Wednesday, 9 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's start this hour with this story. Operation Dudullah has reignited controversy by intensifying protests outside healthcare facilities in Johannesburg, aiming to block undocumented foreign nationals from accessing state medical services. Despite condemnation from, among others, the South African Human Rights Commission, group leader Zandile Dudullah says the protests will continue, insisting that South Africans should be prioritized in the public healthcare system. So let's welcome Zandile Dudullah, that's the president of Operation Dudullah, who joins me now. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. Just tell me what the end objective of the current marches and, those protests that you are staging in front of healthcare facilities. When will your objectives have been attained?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, and to the listeners at home. Thank you so much for having us. So our end goal here is to make sure that South Africans are prioritized because that is currently not happening, but also to ignite, the officials that are supposed to be doing this, but they're not doing it. People are paid for this job, but they're not doing it. This is our tax money. We as South Africans are the ones suffering. South Africans get to hospitals and clinics and they don't get medication because these medications are sent home and be sold. So someone is doing business at the risk of somebody else's health. Now, I hear them complaining that they do not, life must come first and all that, but who takes the responsibility of a South African who goes to a healthcare facility and receives no medication while medication is sold in Zimbabwe? Now, the Human Rights Commission, I think that's the reason why we're going to march to their offices on the 17th of July, because they are not for South Africans. They always prioritize foreigners. Now, every time when we have issues, how many kids have died of poisonous snakes? How many people have been raped by foreign nationals? And what are they saying about this condition that's happening now, that medication is sold in foreign countries? They say nothing. But when it comes to foreigners, just stop a foreigner doing a wrong in South Africa, then they will come up and start complaining. Now, Human Rights Commission, the likes of SERI, Helen Suzman Foundation, are the foundations that are NGOs that are actually promoting criminality in this country, because they're not there when foreign nationals are committing crime, but you will see them when foreigners.
But
foreigners,
can you make that assertion, though, Zandile Dudullah, that they are promoting criminality when they're insisting that you adhere to what's already in the Constitution? You may not agree with what's in the Constitution, but what I understand these organizations to be saying is that this is the status quo that says no one may be denied access. Everyone has a right to access to health care, including reproductive health care and then saying that no one may be denied emergency health care. It's what's in the Constitution. How does that amount to promoting criminality?
Mr. Simelane, we must all understand that when this Constitution was drafted, it was drafted for South Africans. So this Constitution was drafted after the apartheid time, and it had to accommodate the disadvantaged, the blacks, Indian, colors, and all that. So the Constitution was drafted based on that, and not for foreigners. Now, there's no country that will draft a Constitution based on and accommodate all foreigners. You will accommodate foreigners on your Constitution, but those who are legal. I do not dispute that. Now, when you are legal in a country, you would know that if you would have a medical insurance if you are legal and you know why you're here in the country. You'll have your work permit if you're here to work. You'll have your medical certificate, which secures you in private.
Well, not necessarily, Zandile Dabula, because some of the people who are here are refugees. You surely can't expect them to have, to have medical insurance. People who fled conflict situations, etc. You surely can. When I'm running away from a war or a famine, I'm not going to be arranging medical insurance for the country where I will end up.
Okay, but there is a difference here, Tulani, and we must not shy away from that. That yes, we have officials that are supposed to be doing their work, they're not. I mean, how many people do we have in this country who claims to be refugees where there is no war in their country? And they just here because they want to be here in South Africa. They feel that they have all the necessary rights to be here.
Yeah.
These people are taking opportunities away from South Africans. Some of these people claiming to be refugees have businesses. And some of the people that are accessing our healthcare facilities, if you see them parking cars, they're parking very nice cars. Why don't they go to private healthcare facilities?
That's a fair point. That's a point that has been made.
So
but how do you I've got to move us along. How do you in your campaign distinguish between a genuine person who happens to be a foreign national who, in terms of the qualifications that you and I have discussed this morning, would be entitled to health care? From what I've seen of the campaign, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't seem to distinguish between those who genuinely should be accessing these services, and that's part of what people are saying is problematic.
So if you would see, like, instance, I'm going to just name one clinic where we've been in Diepsloot. So in Diepsloot, you'll find that there's a person, claiming to be documented and all that, because we also know that they're using fraudulent documents. We get them inside, they get referrals to private facilities. I mean, they can still go to clinics. If we go into, I'm not saying we should deny them health care totally, but there are those emergency cases which we allow. Life comes first, yes. But your chronic medications, you live here in South Africa, you're able to buy yourself food and sustain yourself and be able to buy toiletries. Now, it means if we're going to take this responsibility again for people who are here illegally especially, then it means we must also go out and buy them food, buy them toiletries and all that. Our systems are suffocating everywhere. Our healthcare workers are overworked. They're overburdened by this. And, somebody needs to come out and help them. We're not saying we hate non-South Africans, but I mean, we're also a country, we have laws, and somebody needs to abide by those laws. But most importantly, somebody needs to make sure that South African in all of this are prioritized. And that section 27, subsection 2, states that when there are available resources. I mean, currently, we're also shorting of resources as a country, and we can't share the little that we have.
So what ultimately for you is the solution to this situation?
The solution is that people must go back to their countries and fix the problems that they have, like we are fixing in our country. We're fighting with our government. Yes, we are going directly
where
to
that's
them.
Where that's not possible? Where that's not possible, what is the solution? What do we do as South Africa where that is not objectively, that's just not possible?
They must try harder, just like us, because if we don't do what we're doing now, in the next 10 years, then it means we'll also be in the same situation. So somebody needs to try. In their country, somebody needs to stand up. I'm going to make an example with Zimbabwe, because they're the ones who get too much every time when you talk of foreigners. Zimbabweans are scattered in all over the country, all over the world. But they just don't want to stand up and go and fight their government. It's not like the SA would explain that the situation is bad. It's not like here in SA, soldiers there are very brutal and all that. But it will take just one person to stand up and say, you know what, let's go back home and fight the demon. That's exactly what we're doing here. They must go back to their homes and go and fix their issues.
All right.
At the end of the day, when we all are okay, we can now start talking about one Africa, because we can't all come here to South Africa and unite, and we have to unite at some stage, but not this time. We have our own issues.
All right.
I mean, you've just seen what happened yesterday, what Mkhwanazi was speaking out. We have our own issues that we need to deal with. So we can't accommodate, especially bogus people that we don't even know of.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. That is Zandile Dudullah, president of Operation Dudullah.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
My name is Lona Temba Mhlongo. I play as a defender. When I'm at camp with Banyana, I don't have friends. I have teammates. If Banyana scored 3 goals against Ghana, I will sing Pambili Ngeo, Pambili Ngisemwe, Pambili Ngeo, Pambili Ngeo. I will sing that.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take one or two of your voice notes that have been coming through, reflecting on the conversations we've had this morning.
I'm very angry at this Meriti violence causer. Man, this woman, you know, plus someone is doing a good job, they complain. Someone is doing a bad job, they complain. Why didn't she join that America crew that was going to live with Trump? This the house, Meriti house.
Thulasizwe, I want to merit the house and these researchers. We stand with Mkhwanazi. This is an extraordinary situation that requires extraordinary response or tactics beyond the normal protocol. What else did he have to do if the normal protocol gets shut down and everything? Do you think you're going to go into a war with the normal protocol? No wonder we are like this as a country. These researchers and NGOs and what are part of the problem because they claim to know everything.
All right, let me take a call from Nkosinathi in Nkandla. Good morning to you, Nkosinathi. You also want to weigh in on this conversation around Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Yes, thank you, Thulasizwe. No, I'm Nkosinathi Mbambo from Nkandla.
Nkandla.
Yes. No, I'm just I'm getting more and more confused, especially about these people who are blaming Mkhwanazi for exposing this issue. But instead of answering the facts, they are looking for processes. Now, it gives us another side that there's something more wrong than maybe Mkhwanazi is telling us. At the moment, we don't want any processes. We want the practicals now. This is where we are standing now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on the side of Mkhwanazi. It doesn't matter whether you call a process or not, but we need the real truth now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Nkosinathi. Short and sharp there, and quite clear that right now he believes that the time for processes will come, but right now is not the time for processes as far as Nkosinathi is concerned.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, let's talk football. The Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Tell me about Banyana versus Ghana tonight.
Oh, Thulas, they are locked. They are loaded. They've got a license to shoot. I appreciate that, because that's one thing for sure. Banyana know they cannot afford to shoot blanks tonight. They begin their WAFCON title defense against Ghana's Black Queens in Rabat, the reigning champions. Banyana, they come in hot with a 7-game winning streak, and while they're the favourites, the Ghana coach Kim Bjorgengren has warned that they may not be the favourites, but they can surprise everyone. Banyana made history in 2022 and with their first continental title, as well as that 17 million rand prize money that's up for grabs. There's going to be fireworks in Group C tonight. Catch it live on SABC Sport. Now, closer to home, the ABC Motsepa League national playoffs have been thrown into legal turmoil, with SAFA accused of defying a court order to halt matches. Now, on Saturday, East London High Court Judge Tembekile Malusi ruled that all fixtures from 6 p.m. on the 5th of July and those scheduled on the 6th of July, they'll be pending the outcome of a legal challenge, and that was brought by the Eastern Cape Sinenkani FC and Northern Cape's Kakamas Juventus. Now, despite the ruling, the first semi-final between the Bees and the Thames went ahead, and the Mpumalanga side winning 4-2. Now, Judge Malusi later clarified that all matches played since the 2nd of July are now subject to an outcome, and that's the outcome of a main review application, and that will be heard on the 22nd of July. Tennis. South Africa's top-ranked wheelchair tennis player Alwanda Skosana has clinched back-to-back titles at the TSA International Wheelchair Series in Benoni. The Umlazi-born 25-year-old beat Germany's Anthony Dittmar in both ITF Future Series finals, which were crucial wins as he chases Grand Slam qualification. And Wimbledon action. Carlos Alcaraz powered into the quarterfinals with a 4-set win over Andrei Rublev, stretching his Wimbledon win. That's the winning streak to 18 matches. Britain's Cam Norrie surviving a 5-set thriller against Nicolas Yari to keep home hopes alive. On the women's side, Arina Sabalenka cruising past Elise Mertens in straight sets, while Anastasia Pavlyuchenko ending Sine Cartel's run. And 37-year-old Laura Sigerman turned back the clock. She became, one of the oldest women, and that she's also through now to the quarterfinal action. So plenty, as always, to look forward to at Wimbledon. And there was some excitement when it came to Silverstone. That's the Grand Prix, Formula One Grand Prix. Lando Norris claiming his first ever victory, sending Silverstone into raptures after teammate Oscar Piastri was handed a 10-second penalty for erratic braking behind the safety car. Nico Hülkenberg finally landed his maiden F1 podium, and it was at the 239th attempt. He stormed from 19th to 3rd, and Lewis Hamilton finishing 4th as Max Verstappen recovered to 5th after a spin. And we'll be spinning with more sport around 12:30 with John Herika. I am Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says crime syndicates are smuggling drugs into the country from South America, distributing them inside South Africa and neighbouring countries. Eastern Cape Judge President Sabi Mbenenge will today take the stand and give his version of events in the sexual harassment probe against him. And the fraud, theft and money laundering case against former ANC national spokesperson Pule Mabe and his 6 co-accused is due back in the Johannesburg Commercial Crimes Court, sitting at Palm Ridge in Ekurhuleni. The accused appeared in court last month and the case was postponed to today. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg's had a busy run through the traffic, although volumes are starting to ease. Still some pressure points though. The Mike 1 Boyson's through to around about Parktown, very heavy. That's going north. Southbound Buccleuch down to Marlborough Drive, jam-packed this morning. And talking of Buccleuch, the N1 and N3 routes going very slow into Buccleuch for connections onto the N1 up towards Midrand. R21 roadworks biting this morning by the NGen one-stop services. Something's changed there. You used to get through okay in the mornings. It was an afternoon thing. But this morning you are just queuing up coming from Clayville to Tembisa. So check that if you've got flights to connect with. The N1 through Midrand, still fairly busy between the old Joburg Road and the New Road exit. Now, if you're driving up to Pietermaritzburg out of Durban, a stationary truck's been there this morning between Ashburton and Market Road. It's still there. The N3's heavy. The alternative R103 up through Polly Shore to Pietermaritzburg, also taking a bit of a spillover as well. Still dealing with a crash on the N2 South going into Spaghetti Junction. There's some queuing pressure there. The breakdown at Gateway on your way to the airport, that scene has been cleared. And Cape Town, some intermittent rain this morning, so just take it easy if you're driving on wet road surfaces. Problems with a breakdown on the N1 outbound at Platterkloof, that's holding traffic towards the Belleville area, and a crash on the R300 south between Van Riebeeck Road and Stellenbosch Arterial. Southbound heavy, northbound being held up with onlooking. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling. Ndauling, tell me about Stats SA and this plan to establish a statistical register of informal businesses. Is this partly informed or inspired by the recent debate about their numbers in terms of unemployment that was sparked by the Capitec CEO?
It must be, Thulas, because it follows a meeting between Statistician General Risenga Maluleke, Capitec's outgoing CEO Khirifuri, and senior government officials. Now, Stats SA saying they are, considering developing a statistical register for informal businesses to better understand and support the sector, which has significant job creation potential. Stats SA added that the proposed register would enhance labor market data quality and granularity, supporting policy initiatives for small business development and providing a more accurate picture of the sector's contribution to the economy and job market. Now, the register would complement the quarterly labor force survey, serving as a valuable sampling frame for improved labor market analysis. By developing this register, the agency says it aims to inform policy decisions, as mentioned, and support initiatives to promote growth within SMMEs.
And then tell me about S&P Global. What are they saying about South African banks?
They're bullish on SA banks, Thulas, and they've upgraded the outlook for local banks, pointing to reduced economic risk and an expansionary phase driven by investments in logistics, renewable energy, and infrastructure. Now, these investments are expected to create new lending opportunities, while household lending is anticipated to grow at a measured pace. According to S&P, the risk of economic imbalances has decreased, with real estate prices expected to rise moderately and lending growth remaining cautious. And so the agency has revised its anchor rating for local banks, turning more positive on these counters. S&P also highlighted individual banks' performance, saying Investec is showing continued improvement in asset quality indicators, driven by its better-than-average creditworthiness. It's noted that ABSA is experiencing a slight improvement in profitability, supported by growth in earning assets, non-interest income, and lower credit provisions, indicating a positive trend for the bank's financial performance. And Capitec was also mentioned. They've pointed to its ability to maintain strong profitability above its peers, showcasing its solid position in the market.
Lastly, Ndauling, how do we expect the markets to start the week?
The local market's likely to start the week on the back foot following international peers. Not much company news, local company news that is. So focus this week will be on tariffs and those trade deal negotiations. In currency markets, the rand losing ground and starting the week on the back foot. This as riskier assets are under pressure. The rand is at 17.75 to the dollar this hour. Stateside futures are in the red. Traders traders will be waking up to President Trump's comments on tariffs, including his threats to slap additional duties on BRICS-aligned nations. Those comments sparking some uncertainty this morning, with Asian markets downbeat, on track to end the day mostly in negative territory.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She's kept you updated on all things business, the economy and the markets over the last 2.5 hours.
My name is Amogelang Motau, Banyana midfielder. What I love about SABC Sport, you guys have managed to capture women's football stories, because I think documentation is important.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. They both have a rich history of glory. Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, I am trying to hear from as many of you as possible, the multiple perspectives. That's what it's all about. Lerato in Tshwane, though, you want to raise something rather slightly different from the main topic this morning. Perhaps it may be related. Talk to me about the treatment of whistleblowers. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Thulasizwe. It is related. You know, the reaction of the so-called experts, ANC people and this guy, Paul, is indicative of what happens when a whistleblower comes forward. He becomes attacked and they look for, what can we, accuse him of. So it is indicative. That's why whistleblowers are afraid to come through and they attack and they in fact get killed. So you would understand the seriousness of all these allegations are on the top of the roof. Currently, last week there was an issue at the High Court where court officials are accused of forging court orders. Yeah. I don't know if you are aware of it. The Hawks came in and arrested some of those guys. So this guy is also saying there's an issue here with our judiciary, which is very serious. It's a very, very serious matter. We'll come back to how these allegations came forward and the processes and the internal processes afterwards. I am sure this guy came forward because he knew. They spoke about the documents that were hidden. So obviously, if he didn't come forward this way, they would have hidden these allegations. So this is typical of us attacking whistleblowers. Gotcha. It's the same thing.
Thank you for that. So substance over form is what Lerato is talking about. Dintwe in Tabanchu, good morning. Also on Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.
Good morning, Thulas. No, the thing is, I think that's serious allegations against the minister, against the judiciary. But what the ANC has said, the ball is in the president's court. Now, we are waiting for the president to act or to issue a statement of what is he going to do with these allegations. Yeah. Because now it's a problem. When the minister, the judiciary is involved in corruption, we need to act. Yeah. And the president must not act after the DA has gone to court, the EFF has gone to court to push him to act against the minister. And secondly, on Trump, I think is going to put the world into turmoil because now he wants America to rule everything, economy and military-wise. He wants America to be the boss of the world.
Yeah, it's rough. We are in some rough terrain there. Dintwe, thank you for your call this morning.
Okay.
Dintwe in Tabanchu. Shahid, let me take you, and I know that I'm zigzagging a little bit in terms of the themes, but let me take you. You want to reflect on the conversation we had earlier on with the leader of Operation Dudullah. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Thulasizwe.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I was listening to the discussion, and I think that there's a lot of factors that the lady from Operation Dudullah is not bringing up. She mentioned that, for example, Zimbabweans must go back home and do something about the government. If she does her research, she will know in 2006, 2007, there was an election in Zimbabwe where the ruling party lost a huge amount of votes in that election. And Thabo Mbeki went to Zimbabwe, he shook Robert Mugabe's hand, and he forced him to join a government of national unity there. This was after a runoff election, and how that runoff election was orchestrated was war veterans went into these villages where innocent people were with machetes. They were cutting people up. It was all over the news. It wasn't a secret that happened. So her saying that these Zimbabweans must go home and sort out the government, when the South African government is propping up these governments and helping them to silence their own people, it doesn't make any sense.
Gotcha.
And also where she's talking of foreigners taking up business opportunities in South Africa, those South Africans have those same business opportunities. They can also open up businesses.
All right.
They can compete directly with these businesses, and you cannot blame an individual to come here and maybe I suppose if they are here illegally, then yes, they have a case. But it's not. It is the government's duty to ensure that these foreigners that come in,
thank you.
Do these fairly.
Let's leave it there for this morning. That's Shahid out in Cape Town. In fact, let me take one or two voice notes that are on that theme before I go to Churchill and Mpo with their calls.
Good morning, Bratulas. This is Mbongo Sondisa. Bratulas, Operation Dudullah must go straight to the borders. Block the Zimbabweans from coming this side. Don't wait for them to come this side. Why didn't you go and block there by the border gate or there by the Limpopo River? Go block there. Stay away from clinics. If you can block by the border, they won't be able to come to South Africa. Please, man.
Morning, it's Brad here from Durban. Listening to your discussion about the foreigners and their rights. Guys, South Africa has a lot of problems. This doesn't have to be one of them. And foreigners around the world, people are leaving their countries, going to another country and inconveniencing the people of the country that they're going to. So we mustn't tolerate it. We must not.
All right, thank you for those. Just highlighting the complexities of it all. And I think part of the message that came through from the Human Rights Commission, it mentioned the role of state players, so the law enforcement agencies, because I think that's also part of what I heard from the leader of Operation Dudullah, the president of Operation Dudullah, that, if the state did its part, none of this would be possible. So if the state was rigorous in terms of enforcement of all laws that are there, then we wouldn't have the situation that we're faced with. So I've heard that theme that says state players take up your role such that there's a balancing of your responsibilities in relation to international law, refugee law, humanitarian law, and the likes, but also a balance with the interests of South Africans who want to see that the laws that are in place in relation to issues such as migration are upheld. Laws are there for a reason. Let me speak to Churchill in Mthatha. Good morning to you, Churchill. You want to go back to that issue of the SAPS? Yeah.
Yes, good morning, Tulas. Tulas, look, I understand what the general is going through.
Mm-hmm.
When the system is full of corrupt people, remember the system is composed of the people.
Yeah.
General Mkonas has been in the SAPS for quite some time. He understands all the protocols.
Yes.
But out of frustration by the system, he's been trying several times. But unfortunately, Now he's prepared to lose everything, but as long as he has spilled the beans to the South Africans.
Yeah.
You remember, when I was looking at him and I was listening to him, he makes a complete argument, and he convinced me personally. He even has evidence to say, look, I can give you evidence. He's got SMSs by these people.
Gotcha.
So this is what we're going through here. Yeah. And it is worse. It's in the DNA of the ANC. Corruption, the ANC is corrupt to the core. That we should admit. It's a fact that cannot be denied. We've seen the president is going to take time. You know, look at what is going on with the minister who has deliberately misled parliament.
Yep.
Even the students are threatening to go on strike for the very same minister.
Yeah.
And the ANC will always protect their own.
Gotcha.
That's what we're going through here.
Churchill, thank you for that. Let's see how soon the president will act. He talked about as soon as he returns from Brazil, he will be announcing a plan of action. Let's see how soon is soon. What will it entail? Who will need to write to him and give an account? And how long will it take for him to... He doesn't use the expression applying my mind to it. That was former President Jacob Zuma's expression. The president is applying his mind. But the effect is the same, right? It takes a while for President Ramaphosa to come to a decision, especially on issues such as these. Let's see. It might be different this time around. Let me take, lastly, a call from Mpo in Randfontein. Good morning to you, Mpo.
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. I think the point I wanted to make, in as much as the allegations should be made, but we should always think about the South Africa security, that we don't create unnecessary fragility of the state. I still believe that the general would have explored internal processes, including the president, including any other person that is engaged to bring these issues out. Not to hide them, to speak the way you're speaking them, but internally. Because if people are not processed and you just face allegations, there's no arrest, there's no court, there's not any other thing, you can create unnecessary. Because in the old Atram Patem rule, you always have to hear the two tales of the story. So you are engaged in this process, we are talking, we have views on the basis of one story, one last story, or one tale of the story.
Do you not think, Mpo, and you're absolutely right, General Mkhwanazi is someone who is a person of experience and understands the protocols. And so this choice to not follow what many would have expected to go public with these says either that he has raised these issues internally to no avail, or that there's actually something else that was sort of prompting him, like some anticipation, I don't know, preemptive to say, before X happens, let me come out.
One of the things that he said that was also worrying is the fact that in the meeting, what he said, that the other one is a criminal, you can't meet with a criminal. I think he was making serious statements. So then that indicates that there is actually a deeper problem among themselves. So their disunity is expressed. The other could come out and say, I was arrested. They could accuse each other on the media. But then they bring South Africans to discuss their problem with them. In actual fact, when they could have exploited their own internal processes to speak.
Sure.
So that's where my issue is.
Yeah. All right. Gotcha. Mpo, thank you for the call this morning. That's Mpo in Randfontein. I'll take a few more of your voice notes and calls before the end of the show.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still busy through the Clue at the top of Joburg. The N3 North from Alex, the N1 from Rivonia Road, both queuing to get through Beclu onto the N1 North for a turn up to Midrand. And if you're coming south through the interchange, the bike one down to Marlborough Drive, looking pretty heavy as well. A little bit of traffic still with us through Midrand. The N1 Old Joburg Road down to New Road is the in and out scenario there. And the R21 just by the engine services slow this morning as you pick up the roadworks on your way towards the airport. Now, Durban's had a problem on the N2 southbound. It is starting to ease. delays. There was an earlier crash at Spaghetti Junction. It has been cleared, the backlog, the final bits and pieces of that backlog just moving through. No joy if you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, a stationary. A truck's been there all morning between Ashburton and Market Road. It's causing a delay on the N3 towards Pietermaritzburg, but it's also shifted traffic onto the R103 between Polly Shorts and central Pietermaritzburg. So both of those routes are quite heavily backed up. Cape Town, bit of traffic pressure on the N1 out of town. You're queuing up towards Belleville to get past a stationary truck at the Plattercliff Road exit, and a crash on the R300 going south after Van Riebeeck Road, just slowing traffic moving through Kales River direction Delft. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
The Congolese have a huge mission to silence the hosts. But the Atlas Lionesses are not shaken. They are confident they will keep the people of Morocco happy. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the exciting contest between Democratic Republic of Congo and Morocco this Wednesday, 9 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's give you the perspective of Leseba Tobachale of the South African Policing Union. Leseba, good morning. Thank you for joining us. So a statement coming through from the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, a short while ago, talking about, he's going to update the media on ongoing police operations, but also going as far as to assure the nation that daily crime combating operations and normal day-to-day policing at stations and other SAPS service points continues. Can that be the reality, though? Business as usual, given what you've heard? Just your reaction as a union to what you've heard and what it means and its implications for your members.
Sabonga Babu Simelane, greetings to your listeners. Thank you for having us. Yesterday, in most of our interviews, we did make a call to the president to intervene in this issue, which came out from the media briefing that was held in the morning. And our further call went to the national commissioner. Him as the national commissioner, that his silence was too loud. There is something that he has to say something. He has to give direction in what has happened, because there were issues that relate to national security. There are issues that touches the integrity of the country in this regard, more especially when it comes to the safety and security in this regard. So the National Commissioner, for him to say that he will update the nation, yes, that is something that we welcome, but we hope that he must do it as soon as possible, not to say later in the week, because this is an urgent matter that needs his attention. And in this regard, I think previously, Thulasizwe, we did mention about our efforts that we made writing to the president about issues that relates to crime intelligence and about issues that clearly touches on the reality that South Africa is faced with, where most of national commissioners, if not all of them, did not finish their term. And those were issues of concern. And we raised them with him, but through our letters, the president never responded to what SAPO has raised. In this regard, in terms of the normal day-to-day of policing in the country, the work of policing, it continues, because remember, it is a constitutional mandate, despite, the current, issues that arose, the allegations that were made through the media, which were not, which we got surprised. They found an expression in the media because they touch the issue of national security, which are not supposed to be on the public domain. And we must also state that the members on the ground, yes, they have got that constitutional mandate to continue working and to make sure that South Africa is safe in this regard. But the attention that needs the president, that also needs the intervention of the National Commissioner, it is as urgent as yesterday, because we need to have stability when it comes to the leadership of South African police police services in this regard for the sake of making sure that we fight against crime. And SAPU support anyone who makes efforts in fighting crime, because the enemy that we are faced with in South Africa, it is crime and it needs to be dealt with.
I know that your members and your shop stewards and other officials who work with you as unions have a way of finding out things. So without asking you to speculate, you can, and I think I can ask you to square up what you heard from Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against what your members on the shop floor, those who are tracking governance issues and what's going on in the various units such as organized crime in Gauteng, crime intelligence in general, as well as the political killings task team are telling you. How does it square up?
We really take note of those serious allegations which are made against the executive, which also include, the deputy national commissioner, the issue of the justice system. We take note of those allegations. They are serious and they really need to look into. But unfortunately, for the basis that the issues of national security, you cannot go and really be deliberating about them in the media space from our side in terms of our principle as an organization. That is why we are saying that they need to be given attention in the relevant platforms, because ordinarily such issues, they get to be ventilated, not in the media spaces in this regard. And even ourselves, if we get to engage in that, we would be, we would also be compromising national security, and we don't want to do that. But what we are saying is that those allegations are serious. They need to be looked into. The relevant people in this regard, the president who is responsible, the national commissioner who is responsible for both the PC of KZN and also the deputy national commissioner who has been mentioned in those allegations. They need to do what needs to be done to look into those allegations.
All right, Lesiba, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Lesiba Thobakgale of the South African Policing Union, where he is spokesperson.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks for a fantastic show. I look at the South African government as a big ball of wool that's entwined and encircled. And the problem is the corruption is so deep all over the place that if you cut one piece of that string, which means somebody lets the cat out the bag, and you start pulling on the string, that whole ball is going to fall apart. That's how deep it is. And I don't think we really know the extent of it. Anyway, thanks for a great show.
Hi, Thulasizwe. It's Joseph here from Randbeck. Some of us, we are not surprised by what Mkhwanazi is saying, because remember, the minute you start investigating the politicians, they want to shield them at all costs. Hence, they took a resolution in one of their conference that the Scorpions must be disbanded. So it's not a surprise for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. I've got to thank you for listening this morning and also for your rigorous engagement through it all. Don't go anywhere. More quality talk, news and current affairs programming coming up here on SAFM, starting with The Talking Point coming up after the news at 9 with N. Musa.
Crime syndicates and police launch a manhunt after toddler's rape. Good morning. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says crime syndicates are smuggling drugs into the country from South America, distributing them inside South Africa and neighbouring countries. Mkhwanazi made damning allegations during a media briefing in Durban, in which the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, is alleged to have links to members